Hello, welcome one and all to my very first YouTube video. My name is Alice, and basically, my brain has been rotting away for like 8 months due to unproductivity. I have not been doing anything since I've left school, so I thought I might as well put my brain to good use and talk about things that I find interesting on here, and hopefully, some of you will find it interesting too. Basically, throughout this series, this is going to be the start of the series potentially if I have the motivation to keep going. I'm going to be doing like social commentary videos, basically discussing all things society, but in a fun way, hopefully. Please do leave room for improvement for this first video because I am working with limited supplies, most notably my tiny mini microphone. I did buy like one of the big ones. It was like a Rode one, but it was just the cover. It wasn't the actual microphone. I probably should have spotted that considering it was 20 quid. But I'm not a tech expert. Anyway, without further ado, because I know for a fact that I find introductions very tedious, let's get into the video. So I've been watching a lot of TV shows and film recently because I clearly have nothing to do with my free time. But something has really caught my eye that I hadn't necessarily picked up on before, mainly because these relationships portrayed in the media were relationships that I haven't experienced until fairly recently. And these relationships are interclass relationships. Most notably for me was the main relationship in Sally Rooney's book and also TV show, Normal People. Normal People basically explores the relationship between Marianne and Connell. The two main characters have an on and off relationship all the way from secondary school up until uni, and it does kind of stop after uni. Sorry for the spoilers. Don't really know if that's a spoiler. It has been out for years, so you should have watched it if you haven't already. Now, I loved Normal People. I think Sally Rooney really successfully explores how economic factors and social factors can have a big impact on two young adults as they like navigate their way through school and uni and just sort of like everyday life. I think it really resonated with me. I think it resonated with a lot of people, mainly because it was a really naturalistic, fairly accurate representation of what it is like to be in a relationship in your teenhood and young adulthood. I think, yeah. Now, I'm not like Marianne in the sense that I live in a huge mansion and have a mum who can subsidise all my uni fees. I wish, but I do live a comfortable middle class lifestyle. As a kid, I was fortunate enough to be taken on holiday like most years. My mum's never struggled to put food on the table. So yeah, I am pretty lucky. But in the past few years, I have been in relationships or dating people who've been from a different economic background, and that background being um, predominantly working class. And despite all efforts for it not to have an effect on the relationship, there still has been some friction created between me and my partner simply from coming from different economic backgrounds. I know that, admittedly, I have felt a little bit awkward taking my partner back to my house because my privilege just seems unfair compared to what they've been giving. Why should I have my own room where they still share with their brother or sister? Why should my mum have the money and the finance to prepare fresh meals to put on the table every night while they're living off ready meals or, like pot noodles? And the previous working class partners that I've had have also expressed their embarrassment. Not that they should be embarrassed because, like, who am I to judge? We're born when we're born. But, it is understandable when you and your partner come from such different backgrounds. So my bangles will be jangling quite a bit. Just take it as background noise. So I think Normal People successfully represented the friction that can be created from being an interclass relationship through how the roles of popularity completely reversed. So when Marianne went off to uni, she became popular simply because she came from the same economic background as her fellow like Trinity classmates.
This is Connell. Oh, right. Hi.
Connell Waldron from Beyond the Grave.
She shares the same internal and external status as her peers, which basically meant she was instantaneously liked, which is crazy, but it is what it. Well, it shouldn't be. It is what it is, to be honest. I guess to explain internal and external status, External status is like the physical wealth that you have, which to be fair, anyone can have. You know, win the lottery, you've got that physical wealth. But internal status is where class is basically created. So it's about your upbringing and socialization. And a lot of elitist snobs, who I'm sure Marianne socialized with at Trinity, would deem high culture, which is like what you're socialized into, as the best, and they'd be called elitist. And high culture is effectively, I'll give examples. So listening to classical music instead of pop music, or going to like a violin concerto instead of going to a rave. I like both. I've never been to a violin concerto, but I do play the violin, so win-win. Anyway, even wearing Gucci, maybe not Gucci because I feel like that's seen as tacky by upper class people, but wearing like a really, really expensive £1,000 t-shirt with no label, they just know it's designer in their head, instead of shopping at Vinted or on Depop or going to a charity shop. However, these high culture activities often exclude people with a lower income background because, you know, it's actually probably cheaper to get a ticket to Thorpe Park and go there than to pay for like black tie to go to an opera. So it excludes and alienates lower class people and even, you know, middle class people who would just prefer to do something that's a little bit cheaper. So through living off the bank of her mum, sharing similar high culture and internal status as her fellow classmates.
Kill for a place like this. I'm so fucking jealous.
Yeah, must be tough living in your parents' massive house in Black Rock, Becky. God knows how you go.
Marianne can spend her free time networking and making social connections. However, for Connell, university is naturally a huge culture shock. He was popular in secondary school because most of the classmates had a working class to middle class internal and external status. So it makes sense for him to feel pretty out of place in a university where privilege equals popularity.
It's usually a bit tighter than this.
It's fine. So, do I give you the deposit now, or?
You must really need somewhere to live.
Yeah, well, supposed to be starting college on Monday, so.
Oh.
For Connell, university seems like a lot of loafers and chinos and whatnot. Dr. Jenny Van Hoof says, and I am quoting, "The view that relationships are abstracted out from material inequality is naive. Inequality and power affects all aspects of everyday life, including love and relationships." So this got me thinking, if interclass relationships are so challenging, are relationships like Marianne and Connell's really that common? Maybe my own relationships have been an anomaly to what is predominantly a class segregated dating world. However, I would argue that external status, so kind of how you present yourself, is getting harder to define. Jordan Teresa made a really, really good video on Barmer Rush and kind of included this topic in that video. So if you're more interested in like the actual fashion side of external status and how that's presented, check out that video. I loved it personally. But basically, to sort of steal some of her points, old money people with generational wealth are now integrating fast fashion into their predominantly like not slow fashion, what's it called? High end fashion wardrobes, because they can. Think about it. There's so much accessibility to fast fashion shops, literally at a click of a button. You've got Shein, you've got Amazon, you've got Temu, I don't know how to say it, but you've got all of that, and kind of producing. I mean, yeah, a lot of the quality is shit, but you've got some good stuff that could pass for expensive items of clothing. I know I almost just revealed it here. I do apologise. That is not for the YouTube or anything. Upper class people can still look classy, rocking a Cartier bracelet, Cartier bracelet, Gucci belts paired with the trendiest crop top from Shein. I would say it's also easier for lower and middle class people to get their hands on designer wear through secondhand shops like Vinted and Depop. So you can get the brand and the label without having to deal with the humongous price tag attached. So there's loads of kind of accounts dedicated to people buying like from Shein and then like next to Zara, or I don't know, like a high-end high street brand, and sort of comparing the two and like getting really similar outfits and being like, which one's the fast fashion and which one's the, sorry, my laptop's fading. and which one's like the high brand. I often find myself second guessing which one's high end and which one's sheen or like fast fashion. So it just proves that it's literally near to impossible to signal out who's wealthy and who's from like a lower economic background simply from seeing people who walk down the street. However, this doesn't erase the difference between lower and upper class internal status. And this thought led me to F. Scott F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby, which I studied in A levels. Hated it, but I actually loved the book. But you know, when you study something in school and it's just like it grinds at your soul and it just takes life out of everything. Now, if you haven't read The Great Gatsby, you should. It's a great novel. I like the film, like the Leonardo DiCaprio film. I like it a little bit too much green screen for my liking, but each their own. But yeah, The Great Gatsby basically explores the American dream through our central protagonist, Gatsby. So F. Scott Fitzgerald introduces Gatsby as this like dirt poor soldier. He's come back from the war for a little bit, and he falls in love with Daisy. She's super wealthy, old money. She's really beautiful. Everyone loves her. But she likes Gatsby as well. So unfortunately, the two lose contact when Gatsby goes off to fight in World War One, and then he comes back after a while to, is it West Egg or East Egg? I've got to Google this. He comes back to West Egg, which is like where all the new money people reside, with shitloads of money. And everyone's like, where did he get this money from? This is a little bit suspicious. He is now self-made through, let's face it, like illegitimate schemes. However, because Gatsby is self-made, even though he is delusional and he's like, I'm gonna get Daisy back, I'm gonna get her back, I've got the money, so she's mine. His internal status will never align with the old money people who live in East Egg, like Daisy and her new-ish husband Tom, who have an internal status of an old money wealthy person, which is sad because, you know, Gatsby's a lover boy. I respect him for that. Yeah, no matter how hard he tries to replicate the old money lifestyle, his internal status will never align to Daisy or Tom's. And this ultimately leads to Daisy staying with Tom and fucking Gatsby off. I think a reason for this is because Daisy finds stability within Tom, although he's a fucking shitty, racist, misogynistic, sexist, that's kind of the same thing, awful man. This is ultimately because of the familiarity Daisy has in the fact that her and Tom share the same upbringing, the same friends, the same social group, the same etiquette. So basically, she's just a bit of a pussy. She's a pussy. She fucks off real love because she's got to stay with someone who she know will give her the same social standing that she's always had and always known. Ultimately, they're both elitists who look down on rags to riches people because, in their eyes, a poor man will stay poor no matter how many pink suits he buys. So I guess, in the end, Fitzgerald is giving us a bit of a warning tale to interclass relationships. It is funny because he himself was in an interclass relationship with, I think her name's Zelda. I haven't actually done any research on this. I did it ages ago for A levels and I've kind of forgot everything. But yeah, Zelda was old money, but she actually Fitzgerald was a cunt, regardless of his social standing. He locked her up in an asylum, which burnt down, and she subsequently died in it. So I say up until recently, it was a hegemonic view that you should date within your social class. Probably arguably because social classes were so black and white, as shown in Great Gatsby. You had people living in the Valley of Ashes, like Myrtle and George. Myrtle was Tom's like side piece. They lived dirt poor, literally had no money. And then you had the really, 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 really rich people. And there was kind of like not really a middle class. However, since the end of the 20th century, there has been a sharp rise in the amount of middle class people who live on the world. That's kind of muddied the waters a little bit in what was previously a very class segregated society. In February 2009, The Economist asserted that over half of the world's population belonged to the middle class as a result of rapid growth in emerging countries. So, does this mean that we have adapted to the changing economy within our relationships? In this day's digital article, we see that class is still an apparent issue in relationships. 23-year-old Mia talks about how embarrassed she felt during Christmas when she was with her partner, who was of a higher economic class, sort of like upper class background, when she was at his for Christmas. She got an expensive engraved bracelet from her boyfriend's parents. At the time, I was really touched, but I remember feeling embarrassed that I didn't get them more, she tells me. I think I got them a bottle of Cava. So the question is, do people save themselves the awkward family dinners and get-togethers by dating within their social classes? Or are people simply saying, fuck society and their expectations and going to these, what seems like god-awful Christmases and lunches? Hello, editing Alice here. I just wanted to interject and say a thought that I found quite interesting about my previous working class partners. So basically, I found that several of the people that I've dated are a lot more driven than me. I mean, maybe that's just a me thing, but I think they just have this drive to be economically successful, whereas I don't. I put more of my efforts into being creative and stuff like that. And I think that's partly because I've never really had to worry about money. I've like always had that security. So even if I really want that drive, like it's just not there. Whereas like the partners that I've had, they've always been thinking about investing, like even stocks and stuff, doing their own businesses, which is super cool. And yeah, maybe that comes from them not having that money to begin with, so they know what it's like to really work hard and become economically successful. Maybe I'm just lazy, but yeah, I thought that was an interesting point. And maybe that will create some issues between a dynamic where one person is like middle or upper class and the other person is working class, because there's just a difference in work drive. Yeah, let me know your thoughts. Well, research published in 2019 showed that 45% of upper class participants in a 2017 survey said they wouldn't even consider being in a long-term relationship with someone from a different social class. Oh my god, we're getting to a juicy part I just saw on my script. So hang on. This is evident through dating apps like Toffee. I don't know if you've heard of Toffee. I didn't hear of it until now, and it shook me to the core. Like, what the fuck is wrong with people? So basically, for those who don't know, it's a dating app exclusively for what is it? Privately educated, so people who've gone to private school, alumni, yeah, and the inner circle of like those top private schools. And there's also another one called Inner Circle, and that's a platform for career-driven, aka elitist fucking snobs, young professionals. So what I find hilariously ironic about the whole thing is that in I think it was 2017 gov.uk like social barometer study, which is when people assess themselves what social class they think they are, 0% of all adults, and I think it was like 11% of like 18 to 24-year-olds described themselves as upper class, and 36% said they were working class, and almost half, which was shocking to me, 48% said they were working class. It's just so funny to think that upper class people are so in denial about their privilege, and yet they selectively go on these dating sites to like escape the poor. It's just so very, very, very strange. It's very, very strange. I don't understand why. For those of you who don't know, around 7% of the population, the UK population, are privately educated, which means that parents have to fork out £15,000 a year. I look like I just got that off the top of my head. There is a script right there on my computer. I just don't want to seem like I'm like glued. £15,000 a year to send their kid to private school. Now, I'd say you had to be pretty well off to afford that. So yeah, I say if you have that much cash lying around, you have the balls to call yourself upper class. Just call yourself upper class. It's okay. We'll shame you regardless. And yeah, I know that class isn't just defined on how much wealth you have, but the whole private school like lifestyle is cultivated around high culture. I'd like to touch briefly on the modern day Gatsby and Daisy, Madeline Argy, but I don't know, I said her name like Madeline Argy and Central C. It really caught my eyes, this relationship, because, like, if you don't know, Central C used to be a drug dealer from Shepherd's Bush, and now he's a millionaire. And I feel like this is quite a big contrast to his middle to upper class girlfriend, I'd like to say. I'm just assuming, I don't know. Madeline Argy. So it could be an ex-girlfriend. I don't know if it's his ex. It's all a mess. They could be together still. Could be broken up tomorrow. I don't know. Madeline Argy was. I can't say her name. I've got fear of her name. It's phobia of Madeline Argy. So she was born in Haywards Heath. Her mum has an MBA, and basically the area she grew up in, because I know a few friends have grown up there too. It's a very affluent area, very. But I thought I'd bring it up because I was like, do you think there are issues? I'm just being nosy at this point. Do you think there are issues in their relationship because of their class? I don't know. Maybe. I feel like when you come from such a different upbringing, that will have ultimately an effect on your relationship. I don't know. This is just Madeline, Central C. Please tell me how your relationship is. I will be your therapist. It is a bit like the modern day Gatsby and Daisy, right? So, like, sure, Central C has his millions now, but he doesn't probably have the same internal status that Madeline Argy had. She looks like the type of girl who'd go skiing on a holiday. But yeah, that is the end of my sort of little exploration into interclass relationships. Let me know if you and your partner are from an interclass relationship and how that works. How are you finding it? It's the good, it's bad, the ugly, the good, the bad, the ugly. I want to know. I feel like I've warmed up a lot after this video. I hope that my magic mic, my little tiny microphone, is still working and I haven't just been holding up here like a muppet, looking like an absolute fool. But yeah, hopefully I'll see you in another video shortly. Planning on doing a video about hookup culture and how we fucking blame 14-year-olds for being promiscuous when personally I don't think that's the truth, but you gotta wait for the video. So yeah, thank you for sitting through it if you have sat through it. I know my voice can be quite monotone, but hopefully I brought some joy into your life. I will see you in another video. See you in another video.